Hey, Foot Clan, Lowe's is my new go-to destination for discovering the newest Craftsman products, including mechanics, tool sets, storage, and more, in-store and online, like the 120-tooth ratchet.
Oh!
It has a 3-degree arc swing that lets you loosen or tighten bolts with less movement in those hard-to-reach spots. Plus, it comes in a gunmetal chrome finish.
Oh!
That's not only sharp-looking, but it makes them corrosion-resistant. That's cool. Right? Shop the new home of Craftsman today at Lowes.com/footballers. That's Lowes.com/footballers.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Whew, so excited to be back once again. Monday, August 13th. Jason Moore is here.
I am here. I watched a lot of football. Football is here. We get to watch it. We get to. It's been such a great weekend.
Mike Wright is here.
I am. I also watched a lot of football. That was a long time. That was a long time without football. It feels like it's longer every single year, the off season.
After a couple of those flags were thrown again on, Saturday night, I wanted to go away.
Oh, mercy. 32.
I'm on the other side. It's simply because Twitter, a lot of people on Twitter are getting real mad at the flags. I am not saying the flags are correct, but it's a new rule.
You see it as a means to an end, and the end being a safer football that we can all play for, not play, but watch.
I absolutely see it that way, but just also the refs are trying to get used to this rule, and there was a couple really egregious, like the guy did exactly the tackle that you want football players to do there, heads up tackling, and you called a flag on it. I don't think it's going to be like that in the regular season. The refs they're still getting used to it. They are human beings as well.
Absolutely. You're a very kind man. I call it hot trash, garbage, and fix it faster.
I want it to be fixed.
You're too kind,
I'm just
Mike.
giving them a grace period of the preseason. If that happens in week 1, I'm going to be freaking pissed.
It's just so hard to watch it because I don't know how you train people to not instinctually play football. That's the hard part is, some of these hits, it's bang, bang, right? And there was a play in the Cardinal game with the fumble. Do you remember that play?
Yep.
Where they called hitting a defenseless receiver after he caught the ball and ran 2 yards.
Yes.
And then he hit him and the fumble happened and it's just difficult to watch.
Yeah, I get that. But
no, I understand.
Look at the all the rules with hitting the quarterback, especially below the knee.
Right, it was hard at first.
I feel like the football players, they've gotten it. They've got the memo. You can't crawl in and try and foot sweep the quarterback as you're falling down.
Brooks tries to do that to me on the show all the time. I feel something around my ankles.
The cameras don't go low enough, but he's down there right now.
Ow.
We will be okay, everyone. Football will be all right. We're going to make it.
All right. If you missed Thursday, Friday episode, then you missed our top, about 24, 25 running backs. We went through the rankings.
Something like that.
And you can check those out. They're on YouTube. You can see everything that's going on with the Fantasy Footballers podcast on Twitter at the FF Ballers, newly verified Twitter account at the FF Ballers. Mike,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
How you doing over there?
I'm good, man. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see
I've
here.
Got some audio from Mike's Twitter account.
Oh, very nice.
Just a hi-hat. So, Mike, now, just to run it back.
Yes.
I'm verified. Jason's verified. The show is verified. You are currently
man of the people. Nope. Currently verifiably the only man of the people.
Now, we have got to get Brooks immediately verified.
Is Brooks verified?
Then Jay Grizz.
Not yet.
Jay and I are working on it.
The show will be over.
I would love to just say it's one of those very overt mistakes by Twitter but now it's just got to be intentional.
Fully.
Who over there has something against tattoos and man buns?
Jack.
I mean, I want to know. Jack? Is it Jack?
It's got to be. That guy's always getting into shenanigans and trouble. One of them is keeping me unverified.
Quick question of the day.
Jerk.
Samaje Perine or Robert Kelly? This question has been all over Twitter.
Or other. I'll add that in there as well.
Absolutely.
Is other represent like maybe Chris Thompson or
Capri
Byron Marshall
Bibbs.
or
Capri, yeah. Oh, you got to mention Capri Bibbs at least.
Yeah,
In passing.
I'll answer.
We're talking about the Washington running back situation.
Yes, Derrius Guice,
No!
superstar rookie running back, unfortunately tore his ACL, so
Hold
he is
on.
out.
I was told he just sprained or strained his MCL.
Yeah, he was told that for a couple minutes as well.
What the heck, man? Look,
you want to share your feelings on this? Because we didn't get a chance, did we?
no, this broke after the show had already published. The doctor who evaluated and gave that initial what's the word I'm looking
Prognostication
for?
or
Yeah, no, I think that's the wrong word.
Prognosis.
Prognosis. We got it. We made it there. Somehow Jason was the one who got
Master
it.
of the English language.
How is that your prognosis? You're killing me, man. Derrius Guice, torn ACL, lost for the season. Very, very unfortunate. Was one of my favorites running backs to draft in fantasy football this season, but now it's gone.
I'll let the Foot Clan into some inside studio action. We have a whiteboard that has some names on it for our My Guy players, and Mike,
which, by the way, that's very,
coming up
very
soon. Very soon.
Coming up
and
next week.
Mike had what?
Yeah.
Is that true?
It
That's
is true.
100% true.
The My Guys episode next
Jason,
week.
also on the whiteboard where I had written down that Derrius Guice was a My Guy, has our list of our schedule of shows.
I should check that out. Yeah, but you had to erase his name. I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick Rob Kelly, and I definitely am not picking Rob Kelly for the ceiling. I don't think that he has the range of outcome that will impress as much as Samaje, but I just believe that he will be the one that gets the opportunity. Right now, he was the starter in the Week 1 preseason game. If you look at the depth chart, where Guice was listed at like 5 or whatever nonsense. I believe it has Chris Thompson as the starter. At running back 2 is a tie. It's like the 1A, 1B situation.
2A, 2B.
Thank you. That is right. 2A, 2B between Rob Kelly and Capri Bibbs.
Oh.
And then in the third
over Samaje?
is Samaje. So I'm going to take Rob Kelly just from a standpoint of, look, he never loses yards. He always falls forward. He has slimmed down this offseason. He's being called in camp.
Is it called Slim Rob?
No, Fit Rob instead of Fat Rob.
Fit Rob.
So, I don't think Rob Kelly is a good enough player to just really impress for fantasy, but that's the guy that I'm going to take my shot on.
Yeah, the way I projected the stats after the Guice devastating injury was in half-point leagues, Chris Thompson and Rob Kelly end up with about the same total fantasy points, and both of them are not extremely relevant for fantasy owners outside the top 36. So I do think that Jay Gruden looks at his running back depth chart, and Rob Kelly he represents the son that is out in the workshop making just nice, normal tables. He's just making good tables.
No, they're not wobbly.
They're not wobbly. They have all the legs. Now, Perine,
It's an important part.
every once in a while, Perine will make a real nice table, but most of his tables are real wobbly. He uses the wrong wood. He shortcuts it a little bit. I just think they look at Rob Kelly and the discipline that he has, and they reward it with playing time.
He also does not fumble, that's huge for Jay Gruden. And if you had not heard, Jay Gruden, at least right now, says in the draft they grabbed Derrius Guice because he was the best player on their board. They are fine with their current running back situation, implying they will not be adding someone like going out trying to find Orleans Darkwa,
Amir
Abdullah, or trying to coerce DeMarco Murray out of retirement. It's funny to me because both Robert Kelly
The voice of public opinion probably disagrees with that assessment.
Yeah, that's fair. But both Robert Kelly and Samaje Perine, they've both had monster games. Once they finally took over, so this Robert Kelly was 2 years ago. He took over, had I think 2 great games, got hurt. Same thing happened last year to Samaje Perine. Once he was the lead guy, had 2 great games, got hurt. But I'm with Jason. I think that Robert Kelly will be at the top of the depth chart. He will get volume. I have him at as of right now at running back 29.
Okay, so you have him inside that top 36.
Yeah,
about
so
where we
a usable fantasy player.
I will say this, though. Samaje Perine's ceiling is higher. If he wins the job, I think he is the more talented runner.
It's fair.
All right, we're going to get into some news, catch you up on some injury news, get into the top 10 to 12 wide receivers on the show today. I want to let people know about a few exciting things. Number one, FootClanGiveaway.com. I'm calling this the ultimate Foot Clan giveaway because it's in conjunction with our ultimate draft kit, which is available now.
It's unbelievable.
FootClanGiveaway.com. Here is what you can enter to win. It's free to enter. You get an autographed. You can win an autographed red DeAndre Hopkins jersey. It's beautiful. You can win. We're giving away a couple copies of Madden 19, and then
the big one.
We're giving away the ultimate draft kit for life.
What?
So,
but Andy.
Yes, voice of public opinion.
But what if I already bought the ultimate draft kit?
We'll give you your money back, and then you'll never pay again. And you'll get one in your inbox every single year for the rest of your life.
What's that URL again?
I'll tell you what you can do. You can even bequeath it. You can bequeath it to your next of kin.
Wow.
Whoa, man. Take
it's
generational prize.
No, it's a generation. It's more than life.
It's going in the will?
It's for the family.
And to my second son. My lifetime subscription.
What'd the first son do?
Oh, you don't want to know.
No.
All right.
He's a loser.
So FootClanGiveaway.com, you can enter there. Basically, you can enter by checking out the YouTube page, by following and subscribing. There are a bunch of ways that you can earn entries and get that Hopkins jersey, Madden 19, or the UDK for life. The other thing I want to remind you about is that if you're in or around Phoenix, you can come see us on August 24th, ballerslive.com. We'll be at the Crescent Ballroom. We'll be talking about bold predictions. It'll be a lot of fun.
Mike and I ran into someone, noticed us when we were out to lunch, and he said, "Hey, you guys have that live show coming up. I was thinking about going." What?
Yeah. Come on.
You're in Phoenix?
I think his name was Austin.
You're thinking about
We're talking to you right now, Austin.
I believe
it
costs you $15 to go from thinking about it to actually being there.
Yeah.
I believe that's the
amazing
cost.
live show. If you're in Phoenix, be there August 24th.
Let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
I want to throw this one out there because, we're following all of the ambiguous player injury news. Like, we don't know what's wrong with Rishard Matthews, wide receiver for Tennessee right now. Rex Burkhead did not play in the preseason opener for the New England Patriots, and he did miss practice today. So we don't really understand or know what's going on with Rex Burkhead. Maybe this is a show of solidarity for Sonny Michel. Maybe they're just hanging out together.
This is one of those, look, if you're in a dynasty league and Jeremy Hill's on the waivers, you should probably pick him up.
He should not be.
He should not be on the waivers, right, is the point.
Okay, let's talk about the 49ers. They had a bunch of injury news. George Kittle and Matt Breida, they were injured, both shoulder injuries, in their preseason game. They both avoided structural damage, and Kyle Shanahan expects them both to be ready for week 1, but to miss the rest of the preseason.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for both of these guys, actually. Breida was looking like he was going to be
hot stuff.
Not just a handcuff, but a player that we like, where you can draft him, and he already has standalone value.
The Tevin Coleman of the 49er backfield.
Exactly. And then George Kittle, a lot of people have him as a potential breakout at the tight end position, including myself. Missing all of preseason, though, is puts a damper on that.
Yeah, especially for a guy that, had
he
dealt with
reps.
injuries his first year, too. So, you worry about that at tight end.
Big scare yesterday. Jerick McKinnon went down in practice, was grabbing the back of his right knee before being helped off by trainers, and people kept spreading around that their GM came and gave him a high five, and they were laughing. But I remember Derrius Guice laughing, so this does not make fantasy owners comfortable. But they did an MRI on Jerick McKinnon yesterday, and the last I heard, it was a calf strain.
Ooh.
And so it is a muscle strain. It was confirmed in the MRI. It's not a ligament or tear, or a ligament tear or issue of severity. So we avoid that.
You avoid season-ending injury.
But this is one of the concerns with McKinnon in general.
Yes.
Can he hold up under that assumption of full-time duty?
Yeah, and a strain that took him down to the point where people thought that he had an ACL tear or something. It's definitely a situation to monitor. I don't know if you guys have adjusted him in your rankings. I have not, but I will be paying close attention to the news because he may have to move down the ranks.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is he now carries more risk because even if he sits out the rest of the preseason, which I would expect he might, then that's 3 weeks.
I'm not that concerned yet.
You're pushed in, and I'm just saying soft tissue issues, those are the ones where, like a hamstring.
I just want to see practice. I want to see what practice looks like in a couple weeks.
That's right. I'm paying – I got the eagle eye on it.
Sure. That makes sense. Jets running back Isaiah Crowell suffered a concussion during the preseason game. If you saw the play, you knew it before you knew it. He decided that preseason game 1 was the time to crash through 4 different defenders. Now, he scored. But, dude, Isaiah, it's preseason. It's preseason. Do you think that I go all out every time I play Brooks and foosball?
No. No, because that's practice.
30-40%. 30-40% is all I need.
How about shuffleboard, though?
Shut up, Brooks.
I wonder if
giving it back.
Wonder if Bilal Powell's ADP will actually
go up.
Impossible.
It
should go up.
But it won't. Bilal Powell is becoming a very good value late in drafts right now.
I'm an Isaiah Crowell owner in Dynasty. I sent out Keelan Cole for Bilal Powell.
Oh.
Wow.
It was declined.
What? It was? I would have clicked accept on the other side of that in a heartbeat.
Well, sure, because Powell's life in Dynasty is limited, and I just wanted a handcuff. But no, your buddy Nick said no, Mike.
Yeah, he'll do that. That sounds about right.
You want this? No. Until I want this.
Yeah, sounds like
he probably
him.
sends it right back, wants me to accept. Deion King, Colts rookie wideout out for the season, torn ACL. There was a little hype around wide receiver Deion Kane. That hype is,
next year
unwarranted
maybe.
now.
Yeah.
Colts have signed running back Brandon Oliver, formerly of the Chargers. This is of no value to me.
The addition of Brandon Oliver is of no value. But do you think they have any concern with Marlon Mack, Marlon Mack, who injured his hamstring in the first preseason game, was set to miss multiple weeks. We talk frequently about a hamstring issue right now is bad news for the outlook of your season. Robert Turbin suspended 4 games. It says something to me that they could be concerned about their depth at the running back position, even though they have 1,000 guys there. Naeem Hines was bad.
Yeah. I want a hype check. I'm going to do a hype check on you guys.
All right.
Here's what I want to know. Matt Nagy came out, and he said that Adam Shaheen, who was a rookie tight end last season,
right?
He said he would be a big part of the offense. Deion Sims has been out with a concussion. Adam Shaheen came in, 3 catches. Is there any chance that the Trey Burton love can be, are we overestimating it? Is Adam Shaheen going to siphon some receptions away from Trey Burton?
No, I mean, so my view of that first preseason game, if you look at when Trubisky was out there, I think it was something around 9 snaps. I mean, Trey Burton was the guy being used. He was lined up in the slot. He was lined up as a receiver. He was used exactly when the starters were out, exactly how we have been projecting in the offseason. So I don't take the rest of the preseason game once the starters are out to mean as much.
I also want to ask one follow-up hype check. We didn't talk about the weekend games. Kerryon Johnson.
Oh, man. You knew this was inevitable.
I'm telling you guys, I have never, ever, ever had one thing be so timeline crushing. Every play, I don't have to watch a Lions game. Okay, good play, bad play, my timeline just explodes. Everything that Kerryon Johnson has ever done or will ever do is detailed in my timeline.
You brought this on yourself.
I did, and I told you guys on Slack before the game, I was like, I don't know what I want to have happen. I don't know if I want him to explode and show that he was the guy that I thought was so talented but now I looked at his ADP, and I will say this, shout out to you, Foot Clan, because he was rising. We tried to bring the dip, and there was a little dip.
Oh, we leveled them off?
And then
it's going to skyrocket.
No, it's already happened.
So
you cannot stop the wind.
Shooting to
you
the
can't
moon.
stop the wind, Jay.
No.
You can put your hands up.
Yeah.
You can try to hold up something.
The wind only brings power.
No, he's skyrocketing in ADP, and that scares me because if you actually pay attention to the game, while he did come in as the passing downs back on that first drive.
Wasn't he in the game in the fourth quarter?
Yeah,
that sucks.
That tells me it's going to be a while.
Yes.
This is why it tells me that, look, he has confidence in LeGarrette Blount. I don't know if they were showcasing Amir Abdullah for the sake of trade, but
Here's
he
something.
reminds me of he seems like a player that it's week 6 or 7 before you start to see all of Carry-On.
Here's something that might surprise the Foot Clan because if they watched the game, Carry-On was great. I actually moved Carry-On Johnson down a little bit based on that game. I already believed in the talent.
So he's number 2 now.
Nothing he did surprised me where it's like, oh, he is good. I need to move him up. I was already ranking him based on the talent that I saw. But what I was hoping didn't happen was stuff like what you just brought up. He was playing in the freaking fourth quarter, and LeGarrette Blount is clearly going to be the guy to begin the year. Theo's involved, and then we got to see what happens.
Did you move
with
LeGarrette Blount up?
No, because Carry-On will win out. He will win out this season, but to start the year, I was wanting week 1 to Carry-On to be a 15-touch guy, and it's probably not going to happen.
Speaking of winning out, quick takes, Royce Freeman versus Devontae Booker, Denver Broncos running back situation.
As good as it could have gone for Royce Freeman. I mean,
that's how I saw it, too.
Because unlike Carry-On, this was a split on the first drive of the game, which means that they're competing for that opportunity right out of the gate. Freeman also had a big touchdown run. I've loved Royce Freeman. I love him even more.
And then, fellas, can you finally join me with the hype for Marshawn Lynch this year?
I moved him up.
Thank you.
100%.
Yes.
100%. Doug Martin got 1 carry and
Beast
was not
mode.
what I thought. They were putting Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington.
Did Marshawn even get a carry?
He got 1
Did he get a carry?
He got 1 carry for a 60-yard touchdown.
I completely did not see that
The
play.
reason you didn't see that was because there was
it like the first?
It was called back on penalty.
It was a garbage penalty.
A garbage penalty.
But
He looked
Marshawn
so fast.
was outrunning everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that
then it was
explains it. I flipped over to that game.
Yes.
All I saw was Doug Martin.
Yep.
No.
And I had no context for that.
They saw what they needed. They were, Marshawn Lynch, still good at football. Get off the field. You can let everyone else get bodied.
Right, so I did move him up. Hey, speaking of all this preseason game, people, if you want to know how we watch the preseason games, we use the NFL Game Pass. And let me tell you something. We've talked about it for the last several years because Game Pass is an awesome tool, but this year they've taken it to a whole nother level. If you want to watch every single out-of-market preseason game, you want to see the rookies, you want to see the new players on new teams, you can watch every game. You can watch them live, switch between live games. You could go back and rewatch them. You can search for specific players. You could say, I want to watch this player on third downs. It's unbelievable. You have to check it out. How's Baker Mayfield going to do? How's Jordy Nelson going to fit in with the Raiders' new offense? Can Kirk Cousins be great with the Vikings? Go watch these preseason games, and there's only one way to do it. That's with the NFL Game Pass. Best of all, you can kick off the 2018 NFL season with a 7-day free trial of NFL Game Pass if you go to NFL.com/fantasy footballers. So check out Game Pass. You want this tool. NFL.com/fantasy footballers. Game on.
We'd like to thank FanDuel for sponsoring today's show. It's been a long off season without football, but guess what? FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives, adding more ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. They have all kinds of contests just for casual fans. Maybe you haven't checked out FanDuel. This might be the year to do it. In particular, Beat the Score contests are great because they pay out everyone who hits a certain score. So all you have to do is finish in the money to split an equal share of the cash. FanDuel, like I said, new options for playing with your friends because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. FanDuel is doing their part to make the preseason bearable with preseason fantasy contests running up to week 1 of the NFL. Right now, you can get a $10 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/footballers. That's FanDuel.com/footballers. Age and state restrictions apply.
All right, we're about to kick off the wide receiver top 10 list on today's show. Before I do that, I do want to just let people know my 32 shamelessly bold predictions article is coming out very, very soon. Last year's article featured such hits as Cam Newton's return to form, Juju Smith-Schuster's breakout season, the fact that the Broncos starting running back for this year, was not on the roster. And so it'll be really fun to get that article out there, see what you guys disagree with, probably everything. But let's go ahead and talk wideouts.
Wide receivers.
All right, let's do it, boys. This first name, well, it's no surprise.
Number 1.
Antonio Brown. Pretty good at football.
He is fantastic, and he is such a cut above every other wide receiver when it comes to two things, which are both the most important things. You want consistency in fantasy football, and you want big game ability in fantasy football. He is the most consistent wide receiver at fantasy football, and he has the biggest games in fantasy football. I mean, there's not much to say about Antonio Brown. He's done it year after year after year. His average season totals over the last 4 years, if you look at what he has averaged, last season, no one got as many receptions as he has averaged, and no one has had as many yards as he has averaged over the last 4 seasons. He's
past 5 season average, 116 receptions, 1,569 yards, 10 touchdowns.
Yep.
Average.
Since 2013, just to back that up, most receptions in the league, most touchdowns in the league, most yards in the league. Antonio Brown is, as Jason would say, when you saddle a stud with your first-round pick, he, to me, is the only wide receiver who fits that category as he gives you the same advantage that a workhorse three-down running back gives you, because Antonio Brown is so consistent and so good. He's back. There was a little hold the breath because Antonio Brown was missing some time with a minor injury, but then the clips are already back of him just making
torching guys,
making fools out of defensive backs. Antonio Brown is the man. He should be the number 1 wide receiver.
If you want to take him number 1 overall in the draft, no problem with that.
Yes, agreed.
Number 2.
That was easy.
DeAndre Hopkins. Depending on your scoring system, he was the number 1 wideout last season. Incredibly consistent. Deshaun Watson and company for a period of the year made Hopkins look like a league winner. I still take Antonio Brown ahead of him.
Agreed. 100%.
What about in a dynasty league? You got a 4-year age gap.
In a dynasty league, I would take Hopkins.
Okay.
Because of the quarterback situation.
The age situation, really. Antonio Brown still has, I think, multiple years left, but when they're close and Hopkins is still ascending.
So last season, Hopkins had 1 more game than Brown, but Brown had more receptions, more yards. It was just the touchdown differential. 9 for Brown, 13 for Hopkins. We all expect Hopkins to be great, but 175 targets for DeAndre Hopkins. Do you expect him to approach that level again this year? Because we had a season, right, with Mike Evans where he had entered the upper echelon of dynasty drafts, and he was in the 172 target range, something like that. Hopkins seems to be the kind of player that can sustain a higher target total for a longer period of time. But what do you guys think about?
We've seen it before from Hopkins.
Yeah, he had 192 targets 3 seasons ago, and last season with the 174 targets, that was in only 15 games. So I do expect that 170 targets, that's an obtainable number for Hopkins. Bill O'Brien is one of those coaches that if you've got an elite player, he's going to say get the ball to him left, right, center every play. So I don't have a problem with that. I do, however, have overall worries of DeAndre Hopkins being overvalued based on what he did last season. 2 years ago, he's the 29th, wide receiver. If you look at his, splits, last year he was dominant. He was unbelievably consistent, fantastic, good for you. But if you look at the 2-year sample, which is kind of how I look at wide receivers, the average there, you go, okay, he's really good. But he's being drafted as if what he did last year is absolutely what he's going to do again. We've talked about Deshaun Watson's touchdown rate being astronomically high, like impossible to repeat. Even if he is the number 1 quarterback next year, he's not going to repeat that touchdown rate. So I do think DeAndre Hopkins, to me, DeAndre Hopkins is my 4th wide receiver this year. Love him. That's a great ranking, but I would still rather have Odell Beckham Jr. and Julio Jones over DeAndre.
I think that's... Yeah, I agree with some of what you said. I definitely don't agree with the 2-year sample piece just because of the quarterback situation. I think that's proven
Yeah,
that's proven troublesome. If you had looked at Fitzgerald's 2-year split when he had John Skelton, or you look at another,
certain quarterbacks
Hopkins
were just
did
too
something
bad.
nobody could do. Yeah,
and it wasn't Watson the whole time. He also had to play with some pretty bad quarterbacks for the second half of the season. The target share that DeAndre Hopkins got this past season, that's where, even though I currently have Hopkins at number 2, that's the most difficult thing, because last year Hopkins a 33% target share. 33% of the passes went to DeAndre Hopkins. You can look at, and that's number 1 in the league. Wide receiver ranked 2 through 10 in target share. They average 27%. I mean, that's a huge gap, a huge jump up to where Hopkins was at number 1. Will Fuller, their second best wide receiver, was in and out of the lineup. If he can play 16 games, you have to get him more involved. The evolution of Braxton Miller, who's getting some of that offseason hype, that offseason love. So that would be my only concern, is that 170 targets comes down to the 150 range, right. And that simply means that then Hopkins will finish at number 5. So he's still going to – I don't see a way that Hopkins destroys your team.
Right, yeah.
Or busts on the pick.
I agree with that. This is a much better receiving core as a team, like you said, with Will Fuller. They drafted Kiki Kuti. Now they've got a couple of tight ends kind of showing flashes. So to have that kind of target share percentage would be really tough.
That being said, if I was the quarterback of the Houston Texans,
I would throw it to Hopkins.
I would throw it to Hopkins.
Number 3.
All right, Odell Beckham Jr. is our consensus number 3 wide receiver. He returns from injury. His average draft position right now is the 11th pick of the first round. And he's an interesting case, because if you could blot out the injury from your mind, from your bias, right?
Which is tough.
Let's say the judge over there, he looks over to the jury and he says, please disregard that injury testimony. Could you do it? And what would that mean?
That would mean he should be the number 2 wide receiver.
Yes.
On the year, because before last year's injury, he never had fewer than 1,300 yards. He's never had fewer than 90 receptions. He's never had fewer than double-digit touchdowns. Odell Beckham is a monster, and he is, I think, as close as you can get to Antonio Brown level of giving you the advantage at the wide receiver position. We just haven't seen that. We haven't seen a top 3 season from from Beckham, even based on those numbers.
Yeah, the reality is, the same argument that we made for Antonio Brown. He's very consistent and has huge blow-up games. Can be made for Odell Beckham Jr. If you look at what the numbers that I was saying, the 2-year splits that I look at, and these are just games played. Number 2 is Odell Beckham Jr. as far as being consistent as a wide receiver 1 or 2. 65% of his games, he's better than a 1 or 2, or better than the 24th wide receiver. And if you look at, say, number 3, Michael Thomas during that time, and you compare, well, how can you have big blow-up games that really win you a week? Michael Thomas is at 29%, while Odell Beckham is second at 50% of his games are those big wide receiver 1 weeks. His talent is unbelievable. So I'm fine with Odell Beckham as number 2. We all have him. He's our consensus 3, but we each have him ranked as our 3rd wide receiver.
His offense should be better.
Welcome back, Odell. You get to play Jacksonville week 1.
Yeah.
Have fun with Jalen Ramsey. All right.
I was so excited for the Giants. I saw Jalen Ramsey was suspended by the Jaguars, and I went, oh, maybe the Giants can get off to week 1. And then I'm like, for preseason. I'm like, that's suspended for a preseason. I know.
Thank you for the convenience.
Well, to be fair, if you didn't see the news on Antonio Callaway, wide receiver from the Cleveland Browns, his punishment
was to play in the preseason.
Was to play the entire preseason game.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Julio Jones. Jason has him at number 2, and I got no problem with somebody putting him there. Listen, 2012, he was the 11th best wideout, injured in 2013, and has finished since then 8th, 2nd, 6th, and 4th. And despite the kind of mindset that people have about Julio always hobbled, he's played 15 games, 16 games, 14 games, 16 games. He finds his way out on the field, and last year 88 receptions for 1,444 yards on 149 targets. Now just 3 touchdowns. That has positive regression written all over it. I think he could be a double-digit touchdown guy this year.
Completely agree. I mean, the touchdowns are the real thing here. Julio is an unfathomable talent. You just read.
I can't even fathom him.
I know. You just read how he is always, one of the top fantasy producing wide receivers. And then you look at last season, first year with Sarkisian, and there's this weird outlier: 18 red zone targets, 10 targets inside the 10 zone. I mean,
and only 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, from those inside the 20 and inside the 10, I only see 2 touchdowns. So one of us is right, but very few touchdowns from that. That's an outlier.
I'm saying he only had 3 touchdowns on the season.
Oh, on the season,
yes.
Right? Okay, yes. But from all those targets inside the 10, inside the 20, I mean, you should expect. And the thing is a lot of times people say, well, that's Julio, right? He doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. He gives you the yards.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, he's had 10 touchdowns
he could
before,
be
8
Julio.
touchdowns before. If he gets up, even if he doesn't get to double digits, he gets up 8 touchdowns, he's going to finish as the wide receiver 2. So I love Julio this year. I've said all along, I think that the Falcons offense is going to be very good for fantasy this season.
Number 5.
Keenan Allen coming in at number 5. On our consensus rankings, I'm 5, Jason 5, Mike 7. His average draft position right now is 205, so he's in that prime position where if you grab a nice running back in the first round, you can scoop up Keenan Allen.
It's called a delight.
Yeah, well, last year.
Delight.
Yeah, 102 receptions, PPR machine, 1,393 yards and 6 touchdowns on 159 targets. He is the go-to guy for Phillip Rivers. He makes this offense move. He makes Phillip Rivers relevant for fantasy football owners. He was targeted 24 times on plays in the red zone in 2017. That is the most among fantasy wide receivers, and he ended the year on absolute fire, just molten lava hot.
Yes.
Towards the end of the year, including Week 17, the number 1. So if you were stuck playing in that torturous
I hope you had Keenan
championship
Allen.
game, hopefully you had Keenan Allen. Number 3, fantasy wideout last season. The story for Keenan Allen has been the history of injury. Last year, he proved that he could play, and he could play each and every game. So nothing to not like about Keenan Allen, right?
It's just about, will the team realize that the second half of the year, that's the utilization that you need for Keenan Allen, because during the first half of the season, he had a couple good games, but he was inconsistent and had some games where he really hurt your fantasy lineup. 3 games inside of the first 7 weeks where he finished as wide receiver 40 or lower. That's not going to get it done.
It was like a stock that you bought into before the season, Mike, and then you were like,
and then it crashed,
and it started to crash, and you're like, do I sell this stock? Like,
yes.
Is it going to go up? Like, you had to hold true.
You did
to what you believed about Keenan Allen, and to your credit, you did that last year, and paid some dividends.
Yes, I love Keenan Allen. I think that the unfortunate injury to Hunter Henry helps Keenan Allen when it comes to getting just a few more targets, maybe 1 to 2 more targets per game.
Red zone utilization, too.
Of course, with that as well. Keenan Allen is a monster. Keenan Allen is the next, in my opinion, Keenan Allen is the next version of Antonio Brown.
I do think that it will be interesting to see the dynamic.
I know that's a hot take.
You scorched my face. That was just glossed over.
Yeah, I've also heard you say that about Stephon Diggs in the last week.
Well, that's what I mean. Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs, they are the next guys that will take over the mantle of...
They're route-running monsters.
Yes.
They are gamers. They work hard. I think Mike Williams will be interesting this year. I think that will be an interesting thing to see in the red zone, because between Melvin Gordon and Mike Williams, I think that Keenan Allen could be in a very Jarvis Landry red zone situation. It could be,
which was last year was great.
It was, but historically it's 4 to 7 touchdowns, which is fine. I mean, with 102 receptions, you're happy. I don't think that number goes up. Like, if you gave me an over/under of 6 touchdowns for Keenan Allen, I'd push it, or I'd take the under.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The only other thing I'll say, which isn't even on Keenan Allen, is just based on what you said. Man, I forgot how big Mike Williams was.
He's enormous.
He was out there, and it's like, who's that tight end? Mike Williams looked good preseason
I have him,
game 1. I need to move him.
I have him in my rankings with 10 touchdowns.
Wow.
That's one of my bold predictions in the article coming out.
10?
But I have 10 touchdowns for Mike Williams.
Wow.
Look, I would have made fun of you before that game. But, I mean, they utilize the tight end, and he is one.
He's enormous.
Number 6.
Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas.
Thank you. Mike 5, Jason 6. I'm at 7. He comes in at 6 on our consensus rankings right now, going a pick ahead of Keenan Allen in most fantasy drafts. Last season, 104 receptions for 1,245 yards and 5 touchdowns. His numbers are almost identical to Keenan Allen's in a lot of ways. I mean, he was over 100 receptions. They both had, middle touchdowns, 5, 6 touchdowns. Targets were about the same. He's reliable. That's the name of the game for Michael Thomas. He's very, very reliable. Was his reliability a product of not having other intermediate weapons on this roster, where you have a guy like Ted Ginn who can stretch the field? You have your running backs, but you didn't have another guy in the middle of the field that you could rely on. Would Breeze have preferred to distribute the ball a little bit more evenly to the wideouts?
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a little bit, yes. We've seen he obviously has utilized people like that in the past. Willie Snead, and with Cameron Meredith being there now, that's great. But also in the past, he has usually relied on a primary target, and that is Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas is tried, true, reliable. The upside of Michael Thomas is this. You have a guy who is the clear-cut wide receiver 1 on a good team for a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's got touchdown upside. You know, if you look at his rookie season and what didn't happen last year, we've talked a lot about Drew Brees should be throwing a few more touchdowns this year than what he did last year, just based on metrics. The downside would be he was everything last year. You know, Ted Ginn's lost a step. Now they bring in, another fast rookie to challenge that, and Cameron Meredith. So maybe.
Did you say you said Cameron Meredith?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Traquan Smith is the rookie wide receiver.
Who's more likely to finish outside the top 15, Michael Thomas or Keenan Allen?
Keenan Allen.
Interesting. I would say it's Michael Thomas.
But Keenan Allen's ceiling, to me, Keenan could finish number 1. I don't think Michael Thomas could.
Okay. All right. We need to move on.
Number 7.
Davante Adams. Davante Adams somehow, some way. I have Davante Adams at number 6 on my rankings.
I don't blame you at all. In fact, I look at number 9. That's my ranking for him, and I go, that feels low.
Last year, just 74 receptions for 885 yards, 10 touchdowns. He is
just when you saw the quarterback play that Davante Adams was dealing with Brett Hundley for the majority of the year.
I know.
To say that he just finished was 74 for 885. Good for you, Davante.
He's never had a 1,000-yard season.
It's true.
I believe that was his season or his career high in receptions. So is that true?
No, he had one more reception the year prior, 75.
Okay. So he's never had more than 75. All I'm doing is bringing that to the forefront and saying, Davante, you got here more on the merit of your quarterback than you did on your own merit. You do know how to get in the end zone regardless at all times. And I think Davante, I mean, if you just put him in a vacuum, I don't have him in my top 20 guys talent-wise.
Sure.
That's my own personal opinion about Davante Adams. But you have Aaron Rodgers. You don't have Jordy Nelson. And he was productive despite not having Aaron Rodgers last year. He looked great in the preseason opener. So Davante Adams, he's at number 7. Aaron Rodgers is going to get him there.
He's one of those guys where if at the end of the season he doesn't have 10 touchdowns and he played the full season, I would just be shocked.
What happened?
I mean, it just seems impossible for Aaron Rodgers to not throw 10 touchdowns.
He would have to bat the ball down in the end zone. On purpose.
Yeah. So, and if you have 10 touchdowns as a wide receiver,
they call that the Ebron.
You're 100% going to be a wide receiver 1. That's why I feel like, okay, at wide receiver 9, I feel like I've got him a little bit low because he has something that no one else out there has. He has Aaron Rodgers with no real competition. I mean, you could say Jimmy Graham or Randall Cobb, but I mean that's not hard competition to overcome for Davante Adams.
All right.
Number 8.
A.J. Green. I think some people, they want to move on from A.J. Green. He burned them last year. He had a down year.
When he finished as the wide receiver 11.
I know.
But yeah, you're not being facetious.
No, 75 for 1,000, just over 1,000 and 8 touchdowns.
The people out there are mad at A.J. Green.
Well, he had look, week 7, he was the 47th ranked wideout. Week 9, he was the 92nd ranked wideout.
It's the 14 and 15.
Weeks 14 and 15 playoff weeks, he disintegrated.
That's when people get real mad.
I think it's the combination, right? We've talked about this before. When you start the season poorly, that sticks with people. When you or vice versa, if you blow up. If you end the season poorly or blow up in those fantasy playoffs, it sticks with you. Those were four of his worst weeks were week 1, 2, 14, and 15. You look at the weeks in between that, he had 5 top 10 weekly finishes in that stretch.
Was a wide receiver 1 over 30% of the time, was a 1 or 2 50% of the time, which is among the more consistent fantasy wide receivers.
He is going at 208 right now.
He's a great value. I've talked about I am more pro Andy Dalton for this season than I think you two gentlemen are. I'm pretty much pro Cincinnati. This is one of those teams I expect to have a lot more fantasy output this season than last season. They fired their coordinator after 2 weeks of ineptitude last year, let Bill Lazor take over. Now he has a whole training camp. I think they've improved their offensive line a little bit, but that's going to make a big deal. John Ross coming in. So to me, I think this whole offense.
Tyler Boyd.
Oh, absolutely. Well. I'm just saying, Tyler Boyd was already on the field.
Right.
I'm saying to take Brandon LaFell off, put John Ross, give you more speed is going to help the offense. So A.J. Green will get open. If you watch the first preseason game, A.J. Green did not look like, he's 30, he's lost a step. He was unbelievable.
A.J. Green's disintegrating DBs in camp. He's the same A.J. Green right now. I made that decision when I invested in him in our Dynasty League. I went out and traded a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of futures for him.
I traded Marvin Jones Jr. and a lot to get A.J. Green because I believe A.J. Green underperformed. I believe Marvin Jones overperformed, and they basically finished back-to-back last year. Green is just a special, special talent, and he offers you the ability, like traditionally, A.J. Green, he gives you like 2 games a year with 3 touchdowns or some type of 86-yard touchdown play where A.J. Green does his thing. So I think we're all on board in believing in A.J.'s return this season.
Number 9,
Larry Fitzgerald. Now, he's 11 on my ranks, 11 in Jason's, 8th in Mike's.
You're darn right he is.
But you start to get into this category and moves him up. So he's number 9, 109 receptions last year, 1,156 yards, 6 touchdowns. If Sam Bradford can stay healthy, Larry Fitzgerald is a locked and loaded top 12 wide receiver.
100%. That's where I was going to go with
He was number 5 last year, by the way. For the haters out there who think we're homers just because we mentioned Larry Fitzgerald's name, we have him ranked 9. He was 5 last year.
His past 3 season finishes at the wide receiver position, 9, 12, 5. Sam Bradford is a great quarterback when he plays football. If you caught the first couple drives of the Cardinals' preseason game, they're going to be far better than people assumed with health. And this is not just a
You're saying if they're healthy, they'll be far better than people assume.
And this is not just a Sam Bradford health situation. This is the offensive line. If the 5 starters for the Cardinals can play 16, which, again, that's a stretch too, but it does happen. You see teams where they either get the injury bug or they don't, and the teams that don't are the teams that end up in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. But their first-team offense, with David Johnson returning, they're going to be far better than people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, I agree. One thing, though, that I think is important to point out, because this has been 2 years in a row for Larry, and you can see it. I mean, we watch the games week in, week out, and we're Cardinals fans. So, we see what's going on here. We live in Phoenix. His home road splits are something to monitor. Larry used to be the super consistent every single week, a ton of targets, touchdowns, whatever. He's just, last year and the last 2 years, it's almost a 20-point to 12-point difference. So that's 8 points different between home road. When you look at the consistency, I have always loved getting Larry when he's fallen to the 4th, 5th round. This year, he's actually being given respect and average draft price. He's not the discount this season that he was last season. I still think he's going to be great.
Probably
he's
our
in my
fault.
top 12. Yeah, it might be. I tried in this offseason to bury him, but it is worth noting he is not as good on the road as he is at home anymore.
Number 10.
All right, we're going to close it out with number 10 because I think we'll have the most discussion here. Adam Thielen is number 10. Now, I made a lot of adjustments to my rankings, some small, some big, over the course of this weekend after the games. People want to know what causes that. Sometimes it's liking other players more that move other guys down. Sometimes it's small things. Certainly didn't hurt that Kirk Cousins looked electric.
Oof.
And Stephon Diggs looked electric.
He looked accurate.
I want to run this back here. So Thielen comes in at number 10. I have Thielen and Diggs at 12 and 13 in my rankings. Mike has Thielen Diggs at 10 and 12 in our rankings. Jason has the gap right now, Thielen 8, Diggs 17. So 2 questions for Jason. 1, do you believe, as you have all offseason, that the gap is that large? And secondly, if the case is no, what are you going to do to adjust Diggs based on this weekend?
The case is yes. I don't think anything changed. I've always thought that Diggs is a very good player, runs great routes. He can be used anywhere, and I think Thielen is a great player. Both are great. The question is who's going to be the primary target in this offense. We haven't seen enough from preseason to say one guy's clearly going to be the primary, and I think over the past 2 seasons, multiple quarterbacks, Thielen will be the primary target. That's my belief, and so that's why I have them ranked number 8 and 17. I don't see any reason to make adjustments right now at all. If by the end of preseason it becomes apparent that Diggs looks to be the primary target, then I will make an adjustment. But I do not believe, as of right now, that Thielen is not the number 1 target.
Mike, anything to add?
No, both Vikings wide receivers are going to be fantastic, and the only slight concern for Adam Thielen is the change of the OC. Mm-hmm. Pat Shurmur's gone, and will that scheme still favor slot wide receiver Adam Thielen and utilize him the way that he was this past season? I still believe, because I got Adam Thielen as a top 10 wide receiver currently. I believe in the talent. I believe in the offense. And I believe in the quarterback. So they're both going to be great. We're splitting hairs between the two. Before we close out the show, we just want to remind you about FanDuel. You don't have to be a fantasy expert to play over there because they got all kinds of contests. They're keeping the casual fans in mind. Reminder about the Beat the Score contest. It pays out for everyone who can hit a certain score, and they got preseason going on. You want to make that preseason a little bit more exciting? FanDuel has a way for you to do that, and you can sign up at FanDuel.com/footballers. You're going to get a $10 bonus when you make your first deposit. FanDuel.com/footballers. Age and state restrictions do apply.
All right, that does it for today's episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, listening, subscribing, reviewing, supporting the show. We are an independent fantasy football podcast here to equip you to dominate each and every year. We're here all year long, and we're here 5 days a week from now through December. So you can always wake up, refresh that podcast app, and find a brand new episode of the Fantasy Footballers. We're always listening to you guys and your feedback. We're trying to make the show the best possible resource that you can lean on, rely on all season long. Please consider joining our community. Support us at jointhefoot.com. You can find leagues over there, which is really fun, online and local leagues. You get an extra episode of this show each and every week, which is kind of it's all mailbag related, so we take your questions as supporters of the show, as members of the Foot Clan, and we make that community a lot of fun, share some behind-the-scenes things. And, look, I'm just excited for this year. I wish that I had the power to give a get-out-of-one-injury free card to every NFL player. So that way when stuff happens, we don't have to be so sad. It just feels unfair as analysts in fantasy football to hype up a player all offseason and want to just see it happen, right? You just want to see if what you believe about them comes true or about their team, things like that. But unfortunate part of sports.
Yes.
And we'll be back tomorrow with the rest of the wide receiver rankings and lots of good stuff, including news and information.
Make sure you check out draft.com/ballers for all of your best ball draft needs, and we will see you tomorrow, Foot Clan. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.